resume proceedings and resume with the National Anti-Corruption Commission. I believe we have an opening statement and I'm wondering, for the purposes of time for the committee, if we could table that opening statement.
Yes, that would be fine.
Thank you very much for that indulgence, and we'll proceed directly to questions, and I'll go to Senator Shoebridge.
Oh, thanks, Chair, and thanks for your attendance today. I think you may recall I asked some questions at the last estimates hearing about Commissioner Brereton's duties, functions and obligations with the ADF, Australian Defence Force. Do you remember that, Mr. Reed?
Yes, I do remember.
Yep. And I asked you in particular if he was performing any duties with the ADF. Do you remember me asking you that? I think you said you take it on notice.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. You said, I think your answer was no. You don't believe he is undertaking any duties, but you would provide further details on notice for full obligations. Do you remember that?
Yes, Senator.
Yeah. You then provided quite a long response to a number of questions, and I think, just so as we're clear about it, it's EE 25016, I think, was the question on notice that you provided the substantive answer to, which went for some 4 pages.
That's correct.
Yeah. And do you have a copy of that with you?
Yes, I do, Senator.
When you said that Commissioner Brereton wasn't performing any duties or didn't have any duties with the ADF, that wasn't actually true, was it?
No, that was correct.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, you've since gone on the website and confirmed that he continues to perform duties with the ADF or part of the ADF. And in fact, you amended your website only a few days ago to include those details.
What we put up on the website was describing his role in assisting the IGADF, not duties.
So his role in assisting the IGADF, you failed to mention either in the questions, in answers to the questions in the committee, and you also failed to mention his role in assisting the IGADF in the 4-page answer that you provided to the committee. How do you explain not mentioning his ongoing role assisting the IGADF either in any of the answers that you gave in the committee or in a 4-page detailed response that you gave on notice?
So what we said on notice, Senator, was that Commissioner Brereton was appointed to the Assistant Inspector General of ADF in May 2016 and resigned that appointment in or about May 2023 before commencing as Commissioner. So he no longer has a formal role with the IGADF, but what has become clear from what's emerged subsequent to this hearing and subsequent to the provision of that answer on notice is that he has an informal honorary role with the IGADF, specifically related to the inquiry that he undertook as Assistant Inspector General of the ADF.
So, Mr. Reed, were you
referred to as the Afghanistan inquiry?
So, were you responsible for providing that 4-page response? Did you coordinate and provide that?
So I coordinated it, yes.
And I'm assuming you asked Commissioner Brereton to provide his assistance about what, if anything, he was doing?
Yes, of course, Senator.
And he didn't tell you, I'm assuming he didn't tell you because it's not included in your advice, about his ongoing role with the IGADF?
That's correct.
When did you find out he had an ongoing role with the IGADF?
It was as part of the outcome of an FOI process which yielded the two times 2 year age extensions, which identified why those had been requested by the IGADF.
And then did you then go to Commissioner Brereton and ask for some further response?
Well, that was brought to our attention, I think, 2 Fridays ago, and then it followed up with, and it came via the ABC journalist, and as a result of that, a response was provided to the ABC journalist, and then as a result of further media inquiry, we produced the statement that was issued on the 2nd of October, Thursday last week, which details the background to this.
All right. Did Commissioner Brereton explain to you why he hadn't told you that when you were preparing the 4-page response from the questions asked in March?
Well, it's whether it's relevant to the work of the Commission or whether it's associated with a former role where he undertook a significant inquiry into the Afghanistan matters in relation to defence, and in effect it's something that is not, and he doesn't discuss publicly.
But
And
he just failed to tell you that he had ongoing, I say duties, if you don't describe them as duties, function, role with the IGADF.
well, providing advice on a needs basis to the IGADF about a specific inquiry that he has unique expertise and experience in, and clearly the IGADF is dependent at this point in time on his knowledge of that matter.
You see, that was directly relevant to the series of questions you were asked and directly relevant to the answers you gave, but wasn't provided to the Parliament. And I don't blame you for that, Mr. Reed. I'll be quite clear. I blame Commissioner Brereton. Did he ever provide an explanation to you about why he hadn't told you?
Because it's not work that's related to the work of the Commission and in effect predated his appointment to this role.
The very questions were about any work he had, either in his capacity as a Major General or with the ADF. The whole reason he got the extension as a Major General was so he could do this work. You accept that?
Well, provide the advice on a needs basis in an
that's
honorary
work.
role.
That's work. Providing advice is work, Mr. Reed.
Well, each of us will have different words to describe this.
Well, it's work. You're not denying
It's
it's work.
advice. It doesn't occur during the hours that he works for the Commission.
How do you know?
Well,
he didn't
he's
even tell you he
advised
was
me
doing
that.
it.
He's advised me that.
Since.
Yes. So
He
it's
provided
outside of hours that he's associated with the
Was that his
Commission.
explanation to you, that the reason he didn't tell you about it when you were under an obligation to provide accurate advice to the Parliament was because he didn't think it was relevant?
Well, it's because it's not something that he talks about outside of the particular bounds of where he's providing that advice. It was a sensitive investigation. It doesn't impact on his work at the Commission.
Well, this is
And there's
what...
no conflict in relation to his work at the Commission in relation to providing that advice to the IGADF.
This is what the Inspector General said in seeking the extension. In the current circumstances, the gap, which is about work for the special investigator, cannot be met because of Major General Brereton's unique and extensive experience dealing with the specific inquiry subject matter and his specialist expertise. The continued service of Major General Brereton is essential to ensuring IGADF can continue to provide high-level support to the Minister's defence and external government agencies. Do you remember that?
Well, that's listed here in the minute associated with that second extension.
Being part of providing high-level support to ministers, defence and external government agencies is a significant thing, isn't it?
Well, it's...
Providing high-level support to ministers, defence and external government agencies.
Senator, he's providing advice to the IGADD.
Which they are in turn
That's...
providing to ministers, defence and external government agencies. That is a significant body of work, Mr Reed. Not something you should forget when you're answering questions in response to parliamentary oversight.
Well, you know, at that point in time, when that response, when the question was asked and when the response was provided, I was unaware.
Yes, because the Commissioner put you in that situation by not telling you. And again, I don't put the fault at your feet, Mr Reid. I put the fault at the feet of the Commissioner of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, who wasn't being transparent with you and giving you the material you needed to fulfil your functions in responding to the committee. That's what happened, isn't it? Commissioner Brereton put you in this spot.
Well, he certainly had not told me about this before it became clear what the extensions, age extensions were associated with.
And as a result, you provided incomplete, and again, I'm not holding you responsible for this, but incomplete and misleading advice to this committee by saying he's not undertaking any duties and he's not doing any work or functions associated with being a Major General, and that wasn't true.
Well, he's an inactive member of the ADF Reserve and
helping to provide high-level advice to ministers,
on a needs basis, irregularly, he provides advice upon request from the IGADF.
But he didn't tell you.
That's correct.
And as a result of that, your answers to this committee and the Parliament and the Australian public were incomplete and misleading. You don't think that's a problem, Mr Reid? If I was in your shoes, I would feel embarrassed by what the Commissioner had made me do.
Look, luckily you're not in my shoes.
Oh, indeed.
So,
indeed.
But I can understand the nature of his involvement with that investigation, the nature of the sensitivities around that investigation, that he doesn't speak about the sensitive elements of that, and it's not common practice.
Nobody was asking him to disclose sensitive elements of his advice. He was being asked through you to provide details of what he was doing to validate or justify or as part of being a Major General, and he didn't tell you and you didn't tell us.
Yeah.
That was a significant...
And I'm on the record saying here that these were not duties, so there was nothing wrong with what was provided in relation to that particular question.
There were a series of questions put to you about what, if anything, he was doing as a Major General. Are you saying none of those questions covered his work as a Major General for the IGADF providing consultancy advice? Is that seriously your position?
Well, some of your questions related to functions. They were quite specific in terms of...
So he chose not to provide this? It was a clever legal ruse?
No, I don't think it's a clever legal ruse, but that was the direction of your questions that I took on notice. And you'll remember that there were a significant number of them. I think there were 14. So there was the question about duties.
Yes, and you said it's an honorary role and there's no work associated with it.
It's an honorary role.
Yes, it's an honorary role, but in that honorary role, he's providing consultancy advice to the IGADF, and he didn't tell you and you didn't tell us.
Well,
and you're trying to defend him, and it ultimately does you no credit to try and defend him, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Did he make a deliberate decision not to tell you?
I don't know.
Is that what he told you?
No.
That he thought that on a neat reading of these questions, he could not disclose his ongoing role with the IGADF? Is that what he told you?
I think the direction of the questions were about, as you'll remember, references to him appearing in uniform at events and getting, whatever you refer to it as, meals and other things at the army locations. And so I think I can clearly understand that the references and the things that we identified here as functions that he had attended, because that word was used.
That was one question. The other question was, what was he doing as a Major General? Did he perform any work? Did he perform any duties?
And
he made,
no.
it appears, a conscious decision not to tell you, and by not telling you, not to tell the Parliament, that he was continuing to moonlight as a consultant with the IGADF.
It's not moonlighting as a consultant.
Well, you say it's not work, you say it's advice.
That's right.
Advice is work. He failed to tell that as part of the quid pro quo for being a Major General, he had to provide advice, and he was providing advice to the IGADF, and he failed to tell us, why are you defending him?
Well, because I mean, whilst, yes, I was unaware of it until it became
Until the
provided.
media found out and told you.
Well,
you had
until-
a commissioner sitting there in your
until
office,
the-
and you had to have the ABC tell you.
until the age extension documents were provided, which I have never seen.
He never
and-
gave you?
Well, I'm not even sure he had them, because they didn't come from him, they came from Defence. They're on their website.
That feels like a good point to share the call. I know that you want to come back to this. So I will share the call. Senator Pocock.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your time this afternoon, evening. Mr. Reed, do you agree that public confidence in the NACC depends not only on impartial decision-making, but also on the clear appearance of impartiality?
Well, most of what we do is things that happen without the public knowledge. That's the basis of the legislation. It's the way that it's being constructed. It's the world that we live in and we have to abide by. And so what the public knows about the NACC is what we provide on a weekly basis in monthly updates and in other parts of the work that we do that could be the recent report that was released in relation to one of our investigations since the NACC's commenced, in the outcomes of court hearings, court cases from matters that were brought forward, and in the corruption prevention and education functions that the NACC undertakes. I think what you're referring to is all of the rest of the commentary that surrounds the NACC, that comes partly through this Parliament, partly through the media, partly through commentators, that we have an ability to try and address, but we can't do anything more than put a view forward about it. And so if public confidence is being impacted by, it's not our work that's creating a public confidence impact, it's actually the amount of negative material that emerges about us that we have virtually no means of addressing because of the nature of A, our role, and B, the way we operate. We can't go out there and tell you what we're investigating. We can't tell you
understand how
it's
it
gonna take.
works.
So that's a significant issue when it comes to the freedom that other people have in terms of making comments
Sure.
and regularly making them about the work of the Commission. That's not helpful for anyone.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm taking is that, yes, the appearance of impartiality is indeed important because you are undertaking work that many people will not actually see, and we need to have confidence that you're getting on with that and delivering for the Australian people. I kind of dispute part of what you're saying. It seems to me that a lot of what we actually hear is coming out of, as Senator Shoebridge was pointing out, a lack of the understanding when it comes to real perceived conflicts of interest from the Commissioner and some of the fallout from that, off the back of, I think, some good investigative journalism. I'm interested if you accept that the Commissioner's ongoing role with the IGADF and continued defence membership could actually create a perception of bias in the eyes of the public and lead to a lot of this discourse.
I'm not sure that I'd agree. I mean, it's not work that is related to his role as a Commissioner for the National Anti-Corruption Commission.
That's been established, but I guess that
it predated in the sense of when the work was done. It was why he was considered for the role based on that prior work. My sense, talking to people I represent here in the ACT, is that be that as it may, he was in the ADF, but he continues to consult for the IGADF, and I assume that the Commissioner is a full-time role. Yes. Beg pardon?
The Commissioner's role is full-time.
It is.
And what is the total remuneration for the Commissioner?
I'd have to check.
Can someone maybe pull that up?
I'll check the annual report from last year. I don't have an annual report for this year.
And to the best of your knowledge, has the Commissioner received any payment, allowance, or other benefit from the IGADF?
No,
Defence?
none whatsoever.
Any related entity?
No. I mean,
does he receive?
There's quite specific provisions, Senator, in the Act about things like secondary employment, and this is not secondary employment. He doesn't receive any remuneration. He does this on an honorary basis. It's a public service, really.
You'd hope that the Commissioner of the NACC would focus on that as their public service rather than engaging in other stuff as good, as well-meaning as it is, that actually brings into question some of the, I guess, concerns about perceived conflicts of interest. And as to your statement that no other payment or allowance or benefit has been received from IGADF Defence or a related entity since commencing as NACC Commissioner, have you confirmed this personally with the Commissioner?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so just for the record, Senator, the annual remuneration for the Commissioner as a NACC statutory office holder is $803,440.
Sounds like a full-time job.
Per year?
Yeah, it is a full-time job.
It's extraordinary. When did you confirm that with the Commissioner?
Prior to these hearings today.
This morning? Yes.
Well, during the lead up to this hearing today, so it was probably late morning.
I'm interested in your argument that, well, it's outside of hours. I'm just wondering if that holds any water. I can just imagine, any other public servant engaging in activity that raised a potential or perceived conflict of interest, saying, don't worry, mate, it's not on the clock. I'm doing this in the evenings.
Where is the conflict in relation to this particular matter when it's not related to the business of the NACC? It's related
to the NACC investigate
unique experience that he has from a former role that he resigned from before taking up the role with the NACC. He has an expertise that probably nobody else could match in terms of understanding of that particular inquiry, the Afghanistan inquiry. He's consulted about that particular matter. He is not on the payroll as a consultant. I think everybody here, and you're suggesting that that, is secondary employment. It's not secondary employment. So I'm not really sure.
Okay. And so just so I'm very
where you're
clear,
heading with this.
your contention is that this raises absolutely no concern.
Well, it doesn't raise a concern to the day-to-day operations of the Commission, where there are going to be interactions, and these were identified in his declaration of interest to the former Attorney General in August 2023.
Sure.
Is that there are units and areas of defence, including IGADF, which was named in that correspondence, which has been tabled here, that he will then recuse himself from if those matters come forward, from those areas, those units.
So, but why on earth do we allow a commissioner who's on $800,000 a year to engage in things which potentially mean that we're going to have to get someone else to do the job that he's been paid so much? It's you've got to understand, Mr. Reed. This is bonkers. If you're out there in the public, and it's hugely frustrating because we see these perceived conflicts of interest. And there's a real question about how they're being managed. And I want to bring you to the NACC Guide for Public Officials on Conflict of Interest.
Mm-hmm.
And disclosure is only the first step. There's then assess, declare and manage. And so I'm interested, has that happened, and how are you doing those things?
Well, when it comes to the day-to-day work of the Commission, and we've been through this at previous hearings, as a result of that one matter associated with the Commission's Robodebt decision and public statement on the 6th of June 2024, and then the subsequent inquiry and investigation by the inspector, the Commission has changed or reinforced its approach to how to deal with conflicts when it comes to the day-to-day work of the Commission. And that's on the public record. The main area where this occurs is in the referral and assessment process that comes to the Commission. And it's when decisions are made about which matters to consider investigating, which matters are not investigated by the Commission or jointly or referred back to other agencies. And that's where it's incredibly important that we have a set of terms of reference for that NACC senior assessment panel that meets on a regular basis in terms of declaring conflicts of interest. And that was the issue that was the nub of, from my reading of the inspector's report,
the Office of Misconduct
tabled, that was publicly produced on the 30th of October.
And so
last year.
has the inspector been involved in this further sort of assessment or management of the potential conflict of interest going forward with IGADF?
The inspector has been in contact with us, and we've responded to her with the details.
What was the inspector's concerns?
Well, the inspector had seen the media reports and wanted to know more about it, so we provided information to the inspector. I think that's a matter for the inspector to talk about.
We'll ask. And just in terms of, you said this is all sort of out of hours. How do you know?
So it's described by the IGADF itself as not regular or structured, and is infrequent, and always through contact by them to the Commissioner.
Sure. Has the Commissioner taken any days of leave to engage in defence activities?
We're on, in that answer to the question on notice, it was identified that he took 2 days
Since then?
leave. Since then, I'm not aware that any leave's been taken.
Okay. Maybe just on notice, if you can if you can have a look at that, and if you could also table your response to the inspector. We'll ask the inspector some further questions.
Well, I think we can take that on notice, but I think it's something that you'll need to discuss with the
You don't have it
with
here?
the inspector.
You don't have it here to table?
I don't have it to table. It's not, I don't think, appropriate for me to table that, but I'm happy for you to discuss that with the inspector.
Okay.
I'll take it on notice. There's no issue with me taking that on notice.
So just to be clear, you don't. It's not in your possession here.
It's not something that I'm prepared to provide, even if I had it on my person.
Well, so are you claiming public interest immunity?
Well, I'm just saying I've taken it on notice that I will consider the matter.
My understanding of the Senate standing orders is that if you have it in your possession, you either table it or you claim PII through the minister and give a reason as to why it would be detrimental.
We should consider whether or not we just need to have a look at it.
Yeah, okay. Perhaps my colleague Rebecca Omar might pick up on that point.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Rebecca Omar, General Manager Legal. We would like the opportunity to consider our response to the inspector and whether or not it is appropriate for us to consider making a PII claim through the minister.
So they can do that. Okay, thank you. And just I'm last questions because I know I'm up on time. I'll wait for the next one. Has the Commissioner disclosed any other roles or potential conflicts of interest?
Roles, duties, functions, work, activity.
Anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you for your assistance, Senator.
Okay. And
Moonlighting.
I guess going back to my question earlier about, the rest of the public service, like what do you say to other public servants who kind of look at the Commissioner of the NACC, our National Anti-Corruption Commission, who doesn't seem to be able to manage a conflict of interest, yet we put a lot of responsibility on other public servants to do that?
I don't think that that's correct, that statement. I think that there's the one example that the inspector investigated and reported on, and since that time, since the changes made to the the NACC Senior Assessment Panel Terms of Reference on the 11th of November, we have been meticulous in recording any conflicts associated with any matter that's been considered.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Pocock.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for appearing today. Mr. Reed, why is Mr. Burton not here?
Mr. Brereton is not the accountable authority for the Commission. I'm the accountable authority.
Okay. Who pays his salary?
The government.
The government or taxpayers?
Well, it comes through the appropriation bills and gets allocated as do all employee expenses.
So isn't the taxpayer entitled to hear what he's saying?
Well, the difference between the predecessor organisation that existed before the NACC, where the Commissioner, Jala Hinchcliffe, appeared, she wore the hat of both Commissioner and accountable authority. But I think what you'll find is that where there's an accountable authority, they're the individuals that
So
are
as the
expected
head of
to
the Act, he's not the
appear
accountable
before
authority.
estimates committees.
So as the head of the NACC, he's not the accountable authority.
That's correct.
Okay.
I am.
Well,
As
you'd be
the
taking a lot of my
CEO
questions on notice then, I assume. Mr. Burton has been Commissioner since inception of NACC.
That's correct.
Thank you. Have you secured, as NACC, any convictions on matters initiated by the NACC, not just continued on from previous agencies?
Yes, if you'd looked at my introductory statement.
So that's complete?
If you looked at my introductory statement, I had made reference to the fact that the Commission had its first conviction resulting from a NACC-initiated investigation, which we referred to as Operation Pelican, concerning the former Executive Procurement Manager at Western Sydney Airport seeking a secret commission for facilitating the award of a contract
So in
on
total,
the 28th of July
Mr. Reed,
2025.
in total, Mr. Reed, how many
He
convictions
was
have you
sentenced
incurred?
to a 2-year jail term of imprisonment. So
So all your
NACC,
convictions are in here in the report, in your
for
final
the
statement.
National Anti-Corruption Commission, as under the NACC Act, there's that one conviction. We've only been going just on 2 years, so in that sense, it's quite early in the life of an organisation.
Thank you,
like
Mr.
this.
Reed. Can I confirm that all of the matters that were initiated by a complaint by the NACC have been listed in that opening statement?
I'm not quite sure what you're...
Have you made any other convictions other than the one you just...
So there's 8 convictions that have occurred under matters that were initiated by ACLI, the predecessor agency to the NACC, and transferred over. There were 22 matters that transferred over when we began
So
on
in
the
2
1st
years,
of July.
NACC has done one, initiated and yeah, I've got it.
And of those,
Thank
we've
you.
had to complete those investigations and work through the prosecutions, and there's been 8 convictions out of that. And not all of them are recorded in here, but the number is recorded here. And there's 3 that I've identified in here from that.
3 that were initiated by the NACC.
No, I think what I said, Senator, was that there were 22 matters that transferred from ACLI to the NACC, and of those, there's been 8 convictions secured, and some of those are under the predecessor legislation, some of them transferred to the NACC and have been initiated.
So how many initiated under
continued
the
under the
NACC?
NACC.
How many initiated and convicted under the NACC?
So the National Anti-Corruption Commission and a National Anti-Corruption Commission investigation, there's been 1
Thank you.
conviction.
Thank you.
The one that I just identified.
Okay. In relation to the robo-debt referral, Mr. Burton declared that one of the people who was subject to the decision not to investigate was a person he knew well.
That's correct.
Where did he know this person from?
So the letter that was tabled here didn't identify that person's name. The inspector has investigated that matter, and her report was produced on the 30th of October last year, and it goes into a reasonable amount of detail about how that conflict of interest was managed and made a finding of maladministration against the Commissioner.
Maladministration.
That's correct, under the NACC Act.
Despite declaring the conflict of interest, his involvement in the, quote, involvement in the decision-making was comprehensive. That's what the inspector said.
That's what the inspector found.
He, quote, again the inspector, quoting
No,
the inspector. She, no, but he, Mr. Burton, now quoting the inspector, contributed to the discussion at that meeting, settled the minutes of that meeting, and was involved in formulating the reasons for decision and also the terms in the media statement, end of quote.
And all of those facts are on the record in the inspector's report.
So he had a close, and the decision to not investigate someone who had a close association with him, that's correct too?
Sorry, I think I missed
The
point of that
decision
question.
to not investigate someone that he had a close association with was his decision. Sorry.
Yeah. So the decision taken in relation to robo-debt was not a decision of the commissioners. It was a decision that a matter, it was under assessment. It wasn't an investigation, it was under assessment. And that matter was allocated to a deputy commissioner because of the conflict of interest. What the inspector found was that he hadn't managed that conflict of interest
Thank you for clarifying.
effectively, and therefore the decision about robo-debt was made by a deputy commissioner, not by the commissioner.
Is my understanding correct that the press release on the decision not to investigate robo-debt contained a false statement that another commission had the power to investigate those people? And did he Mr. Burton suggest including that when he helped formulate the media release?
All of that was covered in the inspector's report, and
Yes or no?
the commission acknowledged as part of that that was an error in that statement.
From a former Supreme Court appeals court judge who would have known this.
People make mistakes.
That's a hell of a mistake. He would have known this. It would have been ingrained in him.
Senator, look, this has all been explored in the inspector's report. We're going back over old ground here.
The inspector said his involvement in the Robodebt decision to not investigate his mates was an error of judgment, which you just acknowledged.
Well, I don't think those were the words that were used.
Was it an error of judgment?
No, mate, I don't think it was referred to in that report, but I might be wrong.
So what would you call a colleague? Associate?
It was a colleague from a former life.
Mr. Burton, I've been through his former position as an appeals court on the Supreme Court of New South Wales. That's arguably the second highest tier of court in Australia. Is he really trying to make us believe through you that given his experience he would make such a consequential error of judgment?
Look, the error has been acknowledged and it's on the record, so I'm not quite sure where this is heading, Senator.
It's heading to a loss of confidence in the NACC. That's where it's headed.
Well, I think it's unfair that one matter, one aspect of the work of the Commission, one of the first decisions that were announced about an assessment as distinct to an investigation, somehow undermines the NACC for the rest of time.
It's a pretty serious issue.
Sorry, Rebecca, did you...
When Mr. Burton wrote his Afghanistan inquiry report, he declared that command responsibility and accountability for war crimes allegations does not extend to senior officers and headquarters, Joint Task Force 633 and Joint Operations Centre. Did he know any of those officers well? Or did he have a close association with any of those officers?
That report was produced before the National Anti-Corruption Commission began, and therefore I'm not in a position to be able to tell you.
Do you know?
About, I can't
Do you
advise
know?
you on that.
Do you know?
No, I don't.
Could you take it on notice to ask Mr. Burton, please?
Well, I'm not sure. Is it relevant?
Yes, it is, because it's going to the Commissioner's fitness for the job of heading up the NACC and establishing whether there's a pattern of behaviour here. There seems to be a pattern of behaviour from what I can tell.
So my colleague Rebecca Omar.
Thank you, Philip. Senator, if it assists, just in terms of the previous line of questioning, the Commissioner has put it on the record that in terms of that association, that it was a professional one, not a friendship.
Oh, no,
and
I'm
it was
not doubting that.
historical professional association. And just in terms of the reasoning in terms of how it came to be that error of judgment occurred, that those referrals came to us in the third day of our operation as the Commission, and the Commissioner has explained that he maintained involvement, not decision-making, but involvement because it raised issues in terms of the breadth of corrupt conduct under the Act. So that was the reasoning, and he declared on multiple occasions in terms of what the conflict was. He stated how he was going to manage it, and another deputy was the decision maker for the referrals.
Has the NACC received any referrals or complaints in relation to the Afghanistan inquiry that Mr. Burton conducted?
I think, it's not something that I'm actually going to be able to answer here.
Could you take it on notice, please?
Yeah.
Has Mr. Burton recused himself from the complaints against the Afghanistan inquiry, or does he need the Inspector General to tell him to do that again?
The Commissioner has stated that he will recuse himself and has recused himself from all matters involving the IG-ADF.
Has he thank you. Has he continued to provide advice to the Inspector General of the ADF on the Burton report? He has, hasn't he?
That's what we were talking about earlier,
Yeah,
Senator, and the answer
right.
is yes. But it's advice,
So any complaints?
not regular or structured and infrequent.
So any complaints, if you could confirm, Mr. Reed, to the NACC about the Burton report, he's not advising the NACC.
Sorry, any matter, if there
Any-
was
any
if there was a
complaints?
referral to the National Anti-Corruption Commission about the IG-ADF, he
And the
would
Burton
recuse
report?
himself from that matter.
Thank you. Since being established in July 2023, the NACC has spent north of $140 million of taxpayer funds with more powers and more staff. This time, the NACC has concluded 1 prosecution. Correct me if I'm wrong, 10 historical investigations from the Australian Law Commission, Australian Commission for Law Enforcement Integrity, and 2 NACC-initiated simple investigations, 1 conviction. Is that correct?
Look, at the moment, the
140 million?
The Commission has 38 corruption investigations underway, and 12 of those are joint investigations. We've got 33 preliminary investigations which are part of the assessment process. We've finalised 10 investigations, 9 when it became clear that corrupt conduct would not be found, and 1 where a corruption finding was made and a report provided to the Minister, which is one of the matters that I put in my opening address here. We've assessed 5,103 referrals. That's 84% of the 6,055 that have come in. So the NACC is a very busy organisation, and the investigations of corrupt conduct are complex, they take time, and any organisation like this will take more than 2 years usually to complete investigations. So what I've said here in my opening address is that as the Commission enters this next phase, so this 3rd year of operations, complex investigations will reach completion and the Commission's operational achievements will gradually become more visible. That's the reality of a new organisation picking up a significant workload, picking up a workload from a predecessor organisation and having to complete that work at the same time as dealing with the number of referrals that have come through. It's not a straightforward, simple exercise, Senator. These are complex matters.
I didn't say that, but for $140 million in 2 years, plus a commissioner who won't front and be held accountable for the taxpayers, that raises many questions.
Well, I think, you know, both of those, the annual appropriations are on the record. They were agreed to as part of the forward estimates before the NACC commenced. We're still recruiting people into roles. The fact that the Commissioner is not here is not a lack of accountability. It's the accountable authority that you've got sitting in this chair, and it's the accountable authority who is expected to be at estimates. So I don't see that there's anything wrong with the Commissioner not being here, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Senator Shoebridge.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Reed, the reason why Defence, I think it was initially the Chief of Defence and then it was Chief of Army, agreed to permit Commissioner Brereton to remain as a Major General post-retirement age was so that he could perform functions for the IG-ADF. Do you agree?
He could provide advice.
And the sole reason why he's a Major General on the part of the Defence Force is so he can do that work for the IG-ADF. Is that right?
I think that's correct.
All right. So when I asked you, Mr Reed, has Commissioner Brereton undertaken any duties in his capacity as a Major General in the ADF since assuming the role as Commissioner of the NACC, and if so, what? That's squarely referenced his functions, work, advice as a Major General. The only thing he was tasked with doing as a Major General was work for the IGADF.
Well, apart from his honorary roles with those elements of the ADF reserve that he maintains contact with.
Right. You gave some of the ADF his attendance at 18 functions, I think.
That's right.
Mr Reed, I'll put this as plainly as I possibly can. I asked you, has Commissioner Brereton undertaken any duties in his capacity as a Major General in the ADF since assuming his role as Commissioner of the NACC? You said at the time, I'm not aware of any, but happy to take it on notice.
That's right.
You took it on notice and you didn't advise of his work with the IGADF. Mr Reed, because of Mr Brereton failing to tell you that, you've misled this committee and you misled the Parliament, haven't you?
In relation to duties, I don't believe so, in the sense that providing advice on a needs basis is not a duty. But, you know,
Mr Reed,
I mean, it's
you could
up
look
to
at
this-
multiple
it's up to this
definitions of duty.
committee
You can look
to-
at multiple definitions of duty. They are, for example, tasks, conduct, service or functions that arise from one's position. It's a task, service or function that arrives from one's position. That's what a duty is, isn't it? And this all arose because of his position of Major General, didn't it?
Well, it arose predominantly, I think, because of his, initially, because of his legal background.
But the
and his
only
ability.
reason he's continuing to do it or able to continue to do it is because he had his extension as a Major General.
That's correct.
It flows from him
That
being
is
a
correct.
Major General.
Yes,
And when I squarely asked you,
in the ADF reserve.
and when I squarely asked you, and you squarely asked Commissioner Brereton, he didn't tell you. And because of that, you misled Parliament. That's what happened, isn't it, Mr Reed?
I'll leave that to others to determine.
The only reason he's performing that work, advice for the IGADF, the only way he can do it is wearing the hat of a Major General. That's why he was
That's
extended.
correct. That's correct.
And when I asked you what duties he's performed as a Major General, you said there were none. You checked with him, he said there were none. And that wasn't true.
Well, I think, you know, this comes down to an understanding of or the use of words in the English language. And
Duty
so I'm
means
saying that he
conduct,
provided
service or
advice
functions.
on a needs basis to the IGADF in relation to that report that he produced before he worked for this commission.
I was asking you about work he did while working as the Commissioner of the NACC, wearing the hat of a Major General. He continued to do work, didn't he?
Well, he provided advice
Yes.
on an infrequent,
Yes, that's
irregular
work.
basis.
How many times has he provided advice and when?
I don't know the answer to that. But
He hasn't told you?
It is infrequent. Well, the advice that we have is that it would take some time to be able to identify how many times he provided advice, and we haven't had an opportunity to do that.
You haven't had an opportunity?
Well, this emerged,
Don't you work in the same organisation?
This-
You're the CEO, he's the Commissioner?
but it's not related to the Commission's work. So it's not something that would
Instead of the
be
interjections,
available through the Commission.
No, that's why you have to ask him, and that's why he has to tell you the truth.
so-
far,
and he
he
is
hasn't told you
advised-
the truth.
No, that's not correct. He's advised that he would have to look through other records
All right.
and it would take some time.
Because there's so much advice?
I don't know. I think it's because it's occurred over a period of time, as you've identified, through these age extensions.
Well, you can't say on the one hand it's infrequent and rare, But on the other hand, it may be so extensive and there may be so many instances of it that it would be an unfair burden to ask him to tell us.
And
Those two things don't sit
certainly-
together, Mr Reed.
That's certainly not the advice that I've been given. It's certainly not the advice that the IGADF has given.
Well, I'm going to ask you to provide on the record how many occasions and on what dates has Commissioner Brereton provided advice to the IGADF since his appointment as NACC Commissioner? You say it's infrequent. Let's see.
Yep.
Will you provide that on notice?
Yes, I'll take that on notice.
Just doing a quick check-in, Senator Shoebridge, in time.
Yes, I have one more other aspect.
Thank you very much.
Mr Reed, you agreed to a limited tender for the procurement of expertise required for the council assisting role to a barrister called Matthew Vesper in May of 2024. Do you remember that?
That's correct.
And in that limited tender, there was only one other contractor considered. Is that right?
Sorry, just let me get my notes in relation to that. Here we go. So, sorry, what was the question again?
There was only one other contractor considered as part of the limited tender.
There was a list of individuals that were drawn up that may be able to undertake the role, and some advice
How many were in the
was
list?
provided by another integrity agency. I'm not sure what the number of individuals were for that. Let me just check.
And while you're checking that, Commissioner Brereton was consulted and provided names to that list. Is that right?
So it's a normal process, from my experience, from a former organisation, the New South Wales ICAC, that the Commissioner will have a say about who they would consider may be able to undertake this work.
Did Commissioner Brereton provide names to the list, or at least one name?
Yes.
And I'll be clear, did
yes.
Commissioner...
So sorry? Yeah. Rebecca Omar is probably got a
He
better
provided the
understanding.
name of Matthew Vesper, is that right?
Senator, if it assists, I was involved in this process. This occurred very early in the Commission's life, and we were looking at potential counsel who had inquiry hearing experience, and so inquiries were made with other anti-corruption commissions in terms of people who had experience. Then in terms of the Commissioner was conducting the particular hearing, so he was consulted in terms of potential counsel, and he mentioned a number of people with that experience, but ultimately in terms of who was chosen for that particular engagement, it was myself who had a list that was put together that was then put to the case officer who was involved with that matter to then be approved by the CEO, because under our Act there's a requirement that the CEO engages external counsel, and the CEO is also advised that he wants to be the PGPA delegate for counsel engagement as well.
And the list you provided to the CEO had Mr Matthew Vesper and one other on it, is that right?
No, what happened was there was a number of people who were on that list, and then inquiries were made in terms of availability. The way it works for us is often there's not much lead time, and it is difficult in terms of engaging council for that reason. So the next step is to make inquiries with council in terms of their availability. So what ultimately went up to the CEO was the one name with justification as to why that person held relevant experience to conduct the engagement. And I can also indicate that an important consideration for me at the time was the fact that this was the first time that we were going to be engaging external counsel for a hearing, and that was going to be conducted by the Commissioner. So it was important that I understood that they would, not only did the person have relevant experience, but that they would also work well together in that context.
Well, the reason, as I understand, given, and I'll quote to you, the reason that was given for having the limited tender with only one name on it was expertise required for the council assisting role. That was your advice to the CEO as to why there was a limited tender, because there was expertise required for the council assisting role. Is that right?
Senator, I can't recall if that was specifically covered in the minute recommending to the CEO
All right.
that person be engaged.
And the name Matthew Vesper came from Commissioner Brereton, didn't it?
That's correct.
Did Commissioner Brereton tell you that he had prior associations with Mr Vesper?
Yes, he indicated that he had, that Mr Vesper had inquiry experience.
Did he indicate that he'd publicly acknowledged Mr Vesper in his valedictory speech when he left the Supreme Court in May of 2023?
No.
Did he indicate a friendship with Mr Vesper?
No.
Did he indicate any prior associations with Mr Vesper to you?
Through inquiry work.
Through inquiry work. Mr Reed, were you aware that the Commissioner had publicly acknowledged Mr Vesper in his valedictory speech when he left the Supreme Court in May of 2023?
No.
Do you think that would be relevant?
Well, it depends, I suppose, on what was said in that valedictory speech.
You see, there are hundreds of barristers who have performed work as counsel assisting various integrity agencies and similar work around the country, aren't there, Mr Reid? There'd be hundreds.
Potentially.
Yep. And the National Anti-Corruption Commission, which is meant to have the highest possible threshold for integrity and process, decides to just pick one on a limited tender who just happens to be somebody who Commissioner Brereton had positively endorsed in his valedictory speech and had associations with before. That's what's happened, isn't it?
I think it's very important that in terms of the Commissioner's involvement, that was one council that he mentioned in addition to other council. He indicated that the choice would not be made by him, and it wasn't. It was made by myself in relation to a list of other council and then engagement with the case officer. So,
Ms Omar, a name that came from you from your boss, the Commissioner of the NACC, is going to have an incredible amount of weight, isn't it? Because it came from Commissioner Brereton, and it just happened to be somebody who he had these prior associations with. That's the truth of it. It's not a neutral recommendation. It comes with a huge amount of organisational clout when it comes from the Commissioner, doesn't it?
No, that's not the case at all. And the decision that I made was based upon the fact that this person had inquiry experience and also being concerned that for our very first hearing using external counsel, that we could be assured that the Commissioner would work well together with that particular council. And it wasn't just one name, it was other names that the Commissioner also put forward as well. To be honest, the Commissioner wasn't aware that we had chosen that council until after it had occurred. And my understanding was when that was communicated to the Commissioner that this is the council that would be used for the first hearing, he indicated surprise in relation to that decision. So
even though he'd given you the name, and this same Mr Vesper was lead counsel in the Afghan War Crimes Inquiry from 2016 to 2020, where he worked directly with Commissioner Brereton. It was a surprise, was it, when he gave you that name and you chose him?
Yes, he was surprised. He then wasn't advised that that was the person we were going with. He was told after the event, after the CEO had made the decision, and it was surprise that he indicated.
Mr Reed, there are dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of barristers who could effectively provide the role of a counsel assisting. And you were given one name who just happened to be the lead counsel in the Afghanistan War Crimes Inquiry.
What's the allegation you're making, that it's not possible to do a limited tender with one name?
It's not possible to do a limited tender with one name where you're not given all of the prior associations with Commissioner Brereton when he gave you the name forward. Were you aware that he was lead counsel in the Afghan War Crimes Inquiry from 2016 to 2020?
I was aware that he had inquiry experience, yes.
Were you aware he'd worked with Commissioner Brereton for 4 years?
And there's nothing wrong with
Were you aware that he'd worked with Commissioner Brereton for 4 years in that role?
I was aware that he had inquiry experience.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. My question, this name came from Commissioner Brereton. Did he tell you he'd worked with him for years when you chose him, Mr Reed?
I knew that he had had inquiry experience and it had been during that
It's
inquiry.
one thing to have general inquiry experience. It's another thing to have worked 4 years with the bloke whose name came forward, who just happens to be your boss, and he doesn't tell you. You don't understand the difference?
Look, I think that in relation to the appointment of barristers as counsel assisting, that there will inevitably be individuals that a commissioner or deputy commissioner have worked with, and therefore there is, in my mind, nothing wrong with.
But they should tell you, Mr Reed, if they've worked with them consistently and they're putting their name forward and they have a prior association with you, they should tell you when you're going to limited tender. And again, Commissioner Brereton just didn't tell you.
He did.
You find out now when I'm in...
Sorry, Rebecca.
He did disclose that he'd worked with him in terms of an inquiry.
Did he disclose that he'd worked for 4 years in the Afghan War Crimes Inquiry and that he'd mentioned him in his valedictory speech?
But what's the issue?
The issue is if you're going to a limited tender and you're picking someone with whom you had a prior association, you should be transparent about it so that there's not the look of picking favourites with public money, and in this case a $67,000 contract. That's the issue, Mr Reed. You can't see it?
I'm going to need to share the call. I'm just seeking an indication for time from you.
Mr Reed, you were the decision maker.
That's correct.
What did you know?
Well, I knew that this was the name being recommended from the General Manager Legal. It had been through a limited tender procurement process that was involving staff from another part of the organisation looking at the Commonwealth rules. It was an engagement that was below 80,000, and that there were therefore exemptions in the Commonwealth procurement rules that apply, and that in this case it was the engagement of an expert or neutral person, including engaging counsel or barristers for any current or anticipated litigation or dispute.
Did you know that he was lead counsel in the Afghanistan War Crimes Inquiry from 2016 to 2020, where he'd worked directly with Mr Brereton, who led the inquiry?
Yes.
Did you know?
I was aware that he had worked in inquiries and in that particular inquiry. I don't see what the issue is that you're...
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. I'm going to share the call now, and we can have a discussion about time while Senator Roberts has the call.
Thank you, Chair. Why is the NACC, Mr Reed, refusing to engage with complainants in either preliminary investigations or corruption investigations who have critical information which can help the NACC fulfil its mission? One person whose permission has been given us to raise his name is John Adams, in his referral of the Prime Minister and ASIC officials. Why haven't you talked to him?
So, Mr Adams has made a number of referrals to the Commission, and we go through a process of what's called triage and then assessment, and then the outcome of that is, if it goes from Tier 1 triage to Tier 2 assessment, is then considered by the NACC Senior Assessment Panel to determine whether or not there's a corruption issue that could be investigated.
Can you make that decision without
so
consulting
what
the
happens is
complainant?
that people make referrals, we assess them, we decide whether or not we're going to proceed with any further work. 84% of the matters.
Well, Mr. Reed, I accept what you're saying. Can you make those decisions to take it from one stage to the next without talking to the complainant?
Well, it depends on what material the complainant's provided, and Mr. Adams has provided enormous amounts of material.
He is diligent.
He is just one of those individuals who is very invested in one particular matter, and the Commission has spent a significant amount of time considering the material that he's provided and has made decisions about that matter. And I don't think that Mr. Adams is happy about that or will ever be happy about the outcome. And so we don't have to go and talk to individuals.
I accept that. I accept that you don't have to.
Reality.
Has the NACC, Mr. Reed, served any legal notices on the current Prime Minister of Australia?
6,055 referrals that we've received since our inception, and it's just not possible that you're going to talk to all of them, and in many ways there's no requirement to. So sorry, I missed your question.
Thank you. Has the NACC served any legal notices on the current Prime Minister of Australia? If so, how many and when?
I'm not in a position to answer that.
Sorry?
I'm not in a position to answer that. We don't talk about the work that we do. We don't talk about referrals unless they're on the public record. We don't talk about investigations. We don't talk about where notices are served.
Why not?
Well, it's just the nature of the Act. The Act requires us to do things confidentially and largely in private. And that's the reality of the Act.
Has the NACC compulsorily examined the Prime Minister?
Look, these questions, we will never talk about the work we're doing until we publish a report at the end of the work we're doing.
Same applies to ministers, not just the Prime Minister?
Look, I'm just not going to enter into a debate about the work that the NACC is undertaking in any of its investigations because it's not appropriate to talk about it here.
In October 2021, the New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption published a media release indicating that Premier Berejiklian was under formal investigation for corruption. This publication led to the resignation of the Premier. Does the NACC have the same approach to inform the public if a Minister of the Crown or the head of a Commonwealth department or agency is under investigation of corruption? You've already said no. But it has happened before in a different state, different jurisdiction.
Yeah, but the New South Wales ICAC, I worked there for 5 years. I very much understand how it operates. Has a different legislative base, a different approach. They ultimately end up in public hearings as part of an investigative process, but most of the work they do is done privately. And so, you know, if I were to quote some figures to you out of the most recent report, annual report of the ICAC, they had one public inquiry in 2023-24 that occurred over 11 days, and yet in the same time period, they undertook 36 what we would call private hearings, they call compulsory examinations, over 30 days. The bulk of the work done by the New South Wales ICAC is done in private. And then when they get an investigation to a particular point, they have the option to go to public hearing. There's provisions that relate to that, and they use that option on a regular basis. But it's a different bit of legislation.
Thank you. In May 2024, the Prime Minister of Australia and senior ASIC officials were referred to the NACC after allegedly facilitating an illegal cover-up of a company called ABC Bullion. You familiar with that? Which occurred during an official investigation.
We don't ever comment on matters that are referred to us or where they've ended up unless it's been put on the public record previously, and most matters have not. And so I'm not going to answer either positively or negatively about that particular referral.
Again, the NACC has resisted in engaging the key witness, so we'll move on to another issue. The last issue, Chair. Given that there have now been 2 senior judges finding that Ms Brittany Higgins lied about not receiving support from her employer, Senator Reynolds, will the NACC reopen the complaint about Ms Higgins receiving a $2.4 million payment of taxpayers' money based on lies, on being that she would never be able to work again?
Sorry, I just need to pick up. Yeah, sorry, I'll just... Okay, my colleague Rebecca Amar will deal with that.
Senator, in relation to Ms Higgins, she wasn't a Commonwealth public official at the time of the conduct you refer to, so not within the jurisdiction of the Commission.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. We've got one more short block from Senator Shoebridge before we can release you.
Thanks, Chair. Commissioner Reed, can you explain to the public why there have been no public hearings in the Robodebt matter so far?
The Robodebt investigation has been done as close as possible to arm's length from the Commission in its day-to-day operations. The directions that have been issued to ensure that it is as at arm's length the distance from the Commission are such that it's an ongoing investigation conducted at arm's length, and it's not appropriate for me to comment about that ongoing investigation.
Well, you say it's been done at arm's length. Who's undertaking it?
So we announced on the 1st of July in our update that the investigation is being undertaken by Deputy Commissioner Kylie Kilgour, who was not one of the Deputy Commissioners or Commissioner associated with the original Robodebt decision.
And I'm assuming that...
She is supported by Mr Geoffrey Nettle as her chief advisor, and there's also counsel assisting and solicitors that are not NACC employees.
So what is the current arrangement for Mr Nettle?
So Mr Nettle has been extended until the 28th of February 2026 from the 31st of December 2025 at the request of the Deputy Commissioner presiding over the matter.
To the end of February of next year?
That's correct.
And what is the current cost of that contract?
So Mr Nettle, so the total, sorry, I'll just get my notes here so that I've got the information in front of me. So the contract value, the total value that's on AusTender is 1.138 million.
All right, and that's 1.138 million that you're having
to the end of the contract.
Yep, that you're having to spend on Mr Nettle because of the failure of the Commissioner to deal with the conflict of interest as identified by the Inspector. That's why that 1.138 million is being spent, isn't it?
We agreed to a recommendation made by the Inspector that the matter be reconsidered, we took... It was difficult to find somebody in the commission that you couldn't say had been associated with that decision. So we went through a process of bringing in Mr Nettle as an independent reconsideration delegate, as a temporary casual Band 3 SES officer, because it was only either a Deputy Commissioner or the Commissioner or an SES officer that could undertake that reconsideration. So as a result of that, he delivered his decision, which was that we would investigate. So as a result of that, we're investigating.
Yes, but the only reason you've had to enter a $1.138 million contract with Mr Nettle is because Commissioner Brereton failed to properly deal with a conflict of interest as identified by the inspector. That has turned out to be at least a $1.138 million mistake by Commissioner Brereton, hasn't it?
Well, if we had decided to investigate to begin with, which we didn't, the Deputy Commissioner at the time...
You wouldn't have had to employ Mr Nettle and you'd be $1.138 million better off.
So, you know, I think we just have to live with fact. And the fact is that we agreed to reconsider the matter without knowing what the outcome of that reconsideration would be. The outcome was investigate, and therefore the Commission is investigating.
Has there been any review of the fact that the NACC has so mishandled the robo-debt inquiry and so eroded trust in public confidence about that, that meets the exceptional circumstances test for public hearings, to try and have some restoration of faith in the NACC's handling of this?
I wouldn't agree with your build-up to that question, in the sense that this was one matter which we received very early on, which was a significant task for us. It's been the subject of the inspector's report. We agreed to a recommendation. The inspector didn't find bias by the Commissioner and made no findings against the Deputy Commissioner that made the decision. It was all about the issue of how the Commissioner had handled the conflict of interest that he was on the record having made.
Mr Reed,
they're the facts.
Mr Reed, if with that history, the inspector having to come in and right the ship, a royal commission, a reference from a royal commission, if that doesn't meet exceptional circumstances for the robo-debt inquiry, what will meet exceptional circumstances for public hearings?
These are matters that the presiding Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner need to consider as part of any investigation, and at this point, for the NACC investigations that are not the robo-debt investigation, which, as I said, is as far as possible removed from the day-to-day work of the Commission. We haven't got to that point, but I'm not making any
Does that involve
statement.
physical removal? Are there separate premises,
any,
Mr Reed? Is there physical removal? Are there separate premises?
So the people that are working on it are predominantly Melbourne-based and not in the offices of the NACC. Some of them are, but the majority of them are not, and they're under strict direction from me as to what they're able to do or not able to do.
Mr Reed, I have had multiple members of the public, key stakeholders, contact my office about the fact that they put complaints into the NACC and they hear nothing for up to 2 or plus years, nothing at all. An initial acknowledgement, then nothing. How is it that you don't have a process for regularly updating complainants about where matters are at?
Well,
because the radio silence is just creating so much distrust.
Thanks, Senator Shoebridge.
so
That's a question.
the referral process we have refined has best we can. In the last financial year, we finalised 1,733 referral assessments in less than 90 days, which produced an outcome of 86.5% against our KPI
Mr.
of
Reed,
80%.
my question is about your communicating back to people who put complaints in. Radio silence.
Yeah.
Well,
Nothing.
the
Okay,
processes
can I
of the
just
Commission...
signal that this is the last response before we go to the dinner break?
The processes of the Commission follow the Act. We don't, unless we need further information from referrers, maintain contact with referrers until there's an outcome. And that's the reality. And it takes time for some of these complex assessments. It takes time for the complex investigations. And that's my final word.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reid. Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. It now means we're in a position to release the National Anti-Corruption Commission. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Now resuming, and I welcome to the table Minister Green, and I call ministers from the Office of the Inspector of the National Anti-Corruption Commission. Ms Furness, do you have an opening statement?
I do not, thank you, Senator.
We love to hear it. Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to questions. Senator Shoebridge.
Inspector, thanks for your attendance tonight. How many complaints have you received since your commencement of operations?
I received 75 complaints in the last financial year and 50 in the first year, and I've received about 30 odd since.
You received a number of communications in relation to robo-debt. Are they in a separate category?
No, they're the 1,300 I haven't counted.
Okay, so 50 in the first year, 75 last year, 30 so far this year, and then another 1,300 in relation to robo-debt?
Yes, it's 30-ish in the first quarter, but since the 1st of October, or early in October, I've received another 50.
Oh, since 1 October, another 50? Are you able to categorise what the complaints are about? Have you gone through that process?
Most of the complaints I received in the first and second year concerned the decision by the Commission not to investigate a person's referral. That continues to be the main theme. What increased in the second year was complaints about the Commission not responding in a timely way to a referral.
Yep.
And that's either by way of update or by way of outcome. And in the second financial year, I had some complaints about the Commissioner and the engagement with Defence.
All right. And of course, your answers are all, we're putting robo-debt in a separate bucket for the purpose of these answers.
That's right.
Yep. And the complaints that you've had, there's been a surge of complaints since 1 October.
Yes.
What have they been in relation to?
They've followed on from the ABC media item that's been discussed earlier today.
Okay. Would you be able to give a breakdown of the complaints that relate to conflicts of interest, either actual or perceived, and other matters?
Well, the last 55 I've received have been about the ABC item, and they've been couched in different terms, but largely about a perceived conflict of interest or actual conflict of interest. It's been put in different terms in respect of the Commissioner's ongoing engagement with the IGADF, however that can be described.
So we'll just quickly deal with the robo-debt complaints. Those 1,300, had they all preceded your dealing with, were they all dealt with in your substantive response to the robo-debt?
They were, however, they've continued to trickle in, if I can say, but the later ones are generally about the decision to engage the Honourable Mr Nettle and then the decision to investigate and the time that has elapsed since. So I have had fewer than 100, more than several dozen in post-report.
Have you, do you have dealing with the non-robo-debt complaints, dealing with the non-robo-debt complaints, do you have a time frame which you are looking at to resolve complaints within? Do you have a guide?
Yes, generally I resolve complaints, by which I mean provide an outcome letter, to a person within about 2 or 3 weeks.
And are there any outlier matters that have taken longer?
There are a number of outlier matters, and the reason they go beyond that include that I need more information from the person who's complained. I need information from the Commission, and then that may go backwards and forwards depending upon the nature of the complaint. So the outliers are where I need further information other than what's been provided to me with the original complaint.
Apart from the robo-debt matter, have there been any other complaints which have been substantiated or where you've taken action in response to the complaint?
As at the end of last financial year, the answer is no. But over the first quarter of this year and up to date, there are matters that are under active consideration, and I can't really say more than that.
Okay. Are you able to give a breakdown of the investigations that have been completed? And I'm more than happy, Inspector, if you want to provide some numbers on notice rather than try and pepper your mind for exact numbers now, but if you can.
Well, the term investigation is a term of art in the legislation. So an investigation is a corruption issue investigation or complaint investigation. So I've only done one of those, and that's robo-debt.
Okay.
All the other matters I've dealt with by way of correspondence with complainants and the Commission and outcome letters, none of which, as at today, have ended in an investigation.
And would it be accurate to say that the complaints you'd received up to the end of last financial year, those had all, apart from the robo-debt complaints, they had all concluded?
No.
Okay, some of those are still ongoing?
Yes.
Yep. Was this the level of work you were expecting when you put your hand up for the job, Ms Vanessa?
No.
Yeah.
No, I thought it would be, there would be less work. I thought that it would centre around a decision not to investigate, because that's similar to my New South Wales hat. And that's certainly the case, that most of them are about that. But there have been a number of quite complex matters that tend to be increasing.
And in terms of your availability and your time, do you feel like you've got adequate time to deal with the matters that are on your plate?
Yes.
Yep. And in terms of the resources that you're getting to assist you, do you feel like you're getting adequate resources to assist you?
I am. What I did in relation to robo-debt and what I will do from time to time is engage someone to help me doing various specific tasks as needed, and I can easily accommodate that within my budget.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Inspector. It's very helpful.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge, for being very efficient. We are now in a position to release you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.